and welcome to this, the latest edition of the Screen One interview. And today I am joined by Bianca and Ammar from the production of Macbeth at the Lyric Hammersmith. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Good morning. We're good.
Great.
It's cold today.
Yes, it always seems to be cold. But but you're doing Macbeth, so kind of set in Scotland, kind of cold, getting into, into the whole thing. So tell me about the production. So Macbeth has been performed across countless times over the centuries and stuff. So what makes your production stand out from all the rest?
We're in it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in a way more modern context, isn't it? And a more psychological angle than sort of like necessarily like set in a literal place and time. So yeah, I think it's very much about like what's going on in like Macbeth's brain and like how like yeah he's processing all the things that have happened in his perspective is a bit of what we've been playing with in the room.
Yeah.
So how does the staging and the direction at the Lyric Theatre bring a fresher perspective to the text, to the Shakespeare's text, do you think?
We've not been there yet.
Do you know what it's going to look like?
Just trying to approach it differently. Yeah. So yeah, we haven't been yet to Lyric Hammersmith. We're excited to go there.
So have you seen any of what it's going to be designed like at all? Have they shown you any plans, or are you still just in rehearsal?
Yeah, we've got like the design of the show, because the show's been has toured previously for the last like 2 years. So there's like already like a sort of structure around the show and like a vision. But I mean, we've really been encouraged to bring something new. And I think when they did it during the tours, they did a bunch of different stuff, like different prologues. They like tried loads of different things. And I think we're still, when we get into the space, I think there's still a lot up for grabs for how we like start and how we interact with the audience as well.
Because Richard recasted the whole play, right?
Yeah, he recast.
We're all new.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the chance to see any of the other versions of the show. I think what's interesting about it is it's going to be a mixture between like European style and British style, if we can say that. So it's an unusual Macbeth.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it less of a minefield, you know. Macbeth is one of these really difficult, rich plays that 4 weeks or 5 weeks London rehearsal period is never enough, let alone you're trying to investigate movement in it and like modern intake, not necessarily politically modern intake, you know. Yeah.
So you mentioned how they did it differently a lot of the time. So you being given creative freedom to try stuff with the production?
Yeah, to a certain extent, we have been given sort of like you're allowed to bring whatever version that you feel you want to bring to this role. There's like nothing from the previous versions that have been that are set in stone for things that we have to have as like markups. Like when you're remounting a show, there's been sort of like, this is sort of like kind of what we've done before, but we're also like happy to investigate and grow that in whatever way this company does.
Yeah. And you know, usually when you have the chance to make the play again, there is an opportunity for you to know what works and what doesn't work. So in a way, it's difficult as well, because to what extent you're being subjective about this worked or didn't work, and different audiences in different places. I think we're trying to do, what we're trying to keep thinking about is what is the story we're telling through the new ways we're trying to develop it. Because Macbeth is straightforward with witches and those characters and what's going on in the arc of these characters. But we're trying to think how, you know, to marry some, without spoiling anything, to marry some of these characters with the straightforward story around witches, and you know, so that's again, I'm gonna use again the word minefield in the time that we have, but it's all exciting, you know. I think it's always exciting to have new findings that you try to commit to until they slap you on the face and say, that's not right.
Yeah. We're going to try something different.
Yeah. And then what everyone says when they do a new project.
Yeah. So what was your first reaction when you were both approached to play Macduff and Lady Macduff? What were your initial reactions?
I was very intrigued by the character. I think when I started to read it, I realized like sort of like the depth of like message that was with her and in the play of what it means to be a woman in this society, and also to cast me as a Black woman in society who, spoiler alert, dies and her child dies. And like what it is to be like in war and to obviously witness the current things that are going on in the world. And it's a like real reality for people, and we're witnessing a lot of horrors of that nature at the moment. And I think that really sticks with me and feels very poignant to give her and the child the respect and care around that moment, because I think, yeah, it's a very sensitive time, particularly around the death of people right now and the amount of people that are dying in war. So yeah, it's very heavy, this.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll get on some light and fluffy stuff in a minute.
Yeah. For me, when I was approached to do Macduff, the Thane of Fife, it's you know, it's a great part. It's difficult. Every theatre part is difficult, but the thing about Macduff is it's one of these characters that Shakespeare played. I don't know if he was trying a new trick in writing drama to make a character way behind the audience about knowing what's going on. You know, the audience know that his wife and children were killed, and now he's on stage to do that, to receive the news. And every scene he comes in, there is no, for him, like a beginning and realization and then action and then he leaves. He arrives always, and it's something's happening. And it is so exciting. It's but you have to come in to the scene already fueled or surprised by what's happening on stage in the scene. It is very exciting. I've done verse before, but this is my Shakespeare debut, you know, in English. So it's exciting.
Yeah. So Ammar, sort of continuing on from that, you kind of a little bit touched on this. So your character Macduff is driven mainly by grief and revenge. So how do you approach balancing the emotions in your performance? Because it's quite a hard thing to do.
Well, it's again going back to what we were saying at the beginning, that we're trying to find in not new things. It's you know, it's again, when we talk about Macbeth, God, how many shows? Like every year there are so many. Imagine throughout the history and timeline of theatre life. So it's not about, how has it been done and I'm going to do it differently. It's not like that. I think the way we're looking at it, Macduff, he's so loyal to a man he loves and adores and respects, Duncan, and he knows about his death. And he decides to revenge for that through Duncan's children. And then his wife and children are dead. And almost like he's lost everything. And the question, when one loses everything, does it, especially as we said, the audience are ahead of Macduff, is it time for the character to decide to drive the story forward, or the actor to live in the pain and perform it? And it's between these two, and I think where the way we're trying to look at it is actually trying to drive the story through and keep it more subtle. We don't know if he breaks actually after killing Macbeth, you know, like, so emotionally, it is hard. It's one of these scenes, like, maybe approaching it is wrong, but still, it's not. It's rare you see in plays where someone on stage is being told that someone so dear to them has died or is being killed. And it's one of these scenes you can't prepare, especially when you have an amazing company around you. You can't prepare and say, this is how I'm going to feel about it. You know, and it depends to what you're building before. What's the style of the play, where it's heading towards in terms of exporting emotions or keeping them within. So it's tricky, but it's beautiful tricky. It's rich tricky. And I hope I come out from the other end of the tunnel, meaning the performance doing well, you know. Because, you know, for people who know Macbeth, sometimes, in a way, I'm trying to approach it as if I'm going to perform and no one knows Macbeth.
That's great.
Because usually audiences go to watch Macbeth. And this is one of the moments, like, how the Lady Macduff is going to be killed. What is the fight between Macbeth and Macduff? Is it actually the climax? How will Macduff hear, you know, what are the witches? So the audience are, you know, they see three witches or a witch and say, oh, this is how they did it. Sadly, rather than what is the story? I didn't answer you properly, but
no, you did. You did. It was great. No, it's great. I said great answer. It's great. So Bianca is kind of led into what I was going to ask. So Bianca, so Lady Macduff's role is quite short but incredibly impactful, obviously, as we've just heard. So how do you make sure her presence lingers far beyond the scenes, her scenes?
Well, in this version, she might be lingering a little bit
Okay.
But I think I'm not sure where we're going to land with what happens after that moment. But I do think that with the lead up to like how she may be coming in a bit earlier and maybe being part of like the supernatural, who knows? I think, you know, I think what's nice, her having that moment and you don't see her after, is I think it gives a lot of like audience reflection moment of being like, why do we live in a world where, because at the end she's basically being like, why should I stand here and say that I'm innocent so that I won't be killed? Is they're gonna just kill me anyway. Like, even if I'm like, I'm a woman, I'm like, I mean no harm, like I'm not a violent thing, but violence is still enacted on me. And I think it's going to be a real throwback to the audience of the world that we live in, especially with like, you know, things like violence against women in this country and beyond, I think it will be a real sort of resonator to be like, yeah, this is the world in the play that I live in, that I'm living in right now for you guys, but also this world is very similar to the one that you're sat in. Like the thin veil between where I am right now and where you are sat right now it feels to be like, it still feels dangerous. Do you know what I mean? The worlds that we're living in. And so I hope that sort of that will sit with the audience and those thoughts marinate in their brains about like, why do we live in a society that says that it is okay for us to like witness horrors, and like we still feel so disempowered when the people are always greater. Like that would be my like want, is for people to like look around and be like, we all live in this world, and if we were to like be more expansive and to see each other, there is power in that, to like move for change. But obviously that is quite a big thing to ask.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a great answer as well. So yeah, no, that's excellent. So is there a particular scene between your two characters that is resonating deeply with you two during rehearsals? Is there, I mean, obviously you've got that connection, but is there something, any of the scenes that really, that you've picked up on so far?
For me, like, it's not a scene. There is one moment. Actually, we found it 2 days ago. Bringing the son and leave.
Yeah.
There is a moment before I leave. 5. I bring our son in, and I just give Lady Macbeth a look that the audience don't see, but they see her look as I'm leaving. And that's just before the death.
Yeah, just before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we're like, we're working on, like weaving in moments of connection and warmth, and those are all really helpful markers and storytelling beats for us. And working towards like finding those, like the moment we're just talking about, feels really nice.
And again, it's Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, they have this interesting theater drama relation where you don't see much of them, but you see how they deal with each other's absence. You know, Lady Macbeth talking about him being whatever and saying to their child that your father is dead. It comes from a very painful place. We talked about this, by the way. I'm not talking for Bianca about Lady Macbeth, by the way.
By the way,
take note. Let you know right now. Yeah.
Can we see this on stage? And the same when Macbeth hears about the death, the killing of that his castle was surprised. Then you see what they mean to each other in a way. By the way, I'm looking, this is not our wardrobe as the Macbeths. This is the costume.
That's a lot of costume changes if it is.
Yeah.
So do you think that audiences are going to connect with Macbeth and Lady Macbeth differently today than they would have, say, in Shakespeare's time? The way, not necessarily the way you perform it, but the way it's now performed per se.
I think, yeah. I think it would be hard to not connect in a different way to how we're bringing ourselves to this production. I think it's going to be very sort of like arresting and like on the front foot. And I think in context of the world that we're living in, I think people will see it very differently. Like, because the themes feel like they're creeping in a lot closer to our world. Whereas I feel like you go see a Shakespeare play and you're like, oh yeah, all this like murder and blah, blah, blah. You're like, great, but that could never happen here, or that's not happening. This is like pretend, like, and go home and like not think too deeply. But I just think the world that we live in now, it's just the horrors of the world are so present right now. I don't think you can watch the show and not think about the current world we're living in and how awful it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously Macbeth has a lot of iconic lines and scenes and stuff. So do you find any personal challenge in that? Because, you know, obviously some people are going to be expecting, oh, this is the bit or this is the line. Do you find any challenges in that, or do you just kind of just do it your way and not worry about what's gone before and that people should expect the unexpected, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, you know, you just use the sentence, like I like a different version of it from a guy called Robert Bresson, who's like French filmmaker. He says, expect the unexpected, expect it.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, I reverse when we say people are waiting for a line, right? And there is a reason why they wait for that line, because it's a remarkable line. And whether it's because of its meter, where it's in the text, how it cuts, where does it come from? And I think it's exactly like To Be or Not to Be. There are sentences or lines, and it's like, you know, it's a tricky for anyone. I'm gonna speak for Macbeth, not for Alex, because he's a remarkable actor who's playing
So
Macbeth. But it's, you know, to say tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, like there are a million ways of saying it, where it comes in and like I look at some lines of Macduff, for example, talking about when he hears about the news of his wife and children, and how he you know, at the end of the play, he calls Macbeth Hellhound, but in that moment, he calls him Hellkite, the hawk that is coming from hell. And as he says that line, he says, "All my pretty chickens and their dam at one full swoop." So he calls him Hellkite, and then he imagines the image, how this held kite came and took everyone with one full swoop. And it's so remarkable, as he is in the moment of knowing, he's going into a metaphor. And to connect your feelings learning about your wife and children and go for a metaphor, it's very like, how can you afford that mentally? And so you say, am I going to lean towards the beauty, the sad beauty of that image, or what I'm feeling? And yeah, it's so there are some lines where it's you just say, or like, you know, when he says from his mother's womb untimely ripped, like so many people say, okay, you know, yeah, I don't know, we're trying in different shows. I would sometimes find things just before the last show. Here, I don't know. We might finish and I go home and say, oh, I like that. Well, then we could have done it with him. Yeah. What about you? Sorry, I went.
I think sometimes you just have. I think Shakespeare can feel like quite a wall, especially if you feel like someone who's like not necessarily like an RP speaking person. Sometimes I think like you do tend to like get in your head about like how it's supposed to sound, like the right way of sounding. And I think there's a part of rehearsal where you sort of have to like unlearn that there's like a proper way of doing it without like completely being like there's no such thing as iambic pentameter and all that stuff. Like all that stuff is real and helpful, and there's exercises to work with the text. But I think ownership is the most important thing. I think when I'm trying to like work with it, I'm trying to think, how would this sound if I said it?
Yeah.
Because that's the only person that's going to be saying it. So I think authenticity and like bringing the text more to yourself, because I think a lot of times Shakespeare's sort of like put up here sort of like as like something that's for a certain type of actor or a certain type of person to enjoy. And I think sort of like dismantling that and like finding ways of like communicating what you're saying, that people will be sat there being like, oh wow, that just sounds like you're just chatting to me. But I think that's also like a kind of quality that like I strive for. We will see if I get that.
You will. We will.
But yeah.
So what's your, because you're in rehearsals, as you've said earlier, so what is a general rehearsal process day like, or the process of the day, should I say? So what's it?
Well, we normally get a rehearsal call the night before.
Yeah.
But when we first started, it would be like the whole company would come in, we play some games. Sometimes we'll have movement director in, Rachel, to like start thinking about like physical language stuff, and then, you know, we have our lunch.
And I think because Richard, he's so like experienced with Shakespeare, so he cares so much about translation sessions.
Yeah, that's true.
It's important, you know. Yeah. Sometimes, as you said, it's like this feeling. It's like a wall. Like for me, my first language is Arabic. Second is English. Shakespeare is third language. You know. So yeah, it's you unlearn things after you try to learn them, because the grammar is different.
Yeah.
Not different from English. I think the English now has no, anyway, grammar, the London English, or you know.
Yeah.
So so Richard really cares about, and the door is open. Like, you know, he doesn't say, no, I think this is what Shakespeare means here.
Yeah.
It's an open conversation. And again, you know, like again, 4 weeks for Macbeth is not enough.
And no, not done. But it will be. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, as you've been saying, it, you know, Macbeth is quite full on, and your production is quite full on. So, how do you decompress each day? Do you have anything you do, or anything you like to just sort of go when you're on a day off or something, or how do you get yourself out of Macbeth mode, I suppose?
I tend to just go for a walk.
Yeah.
I go for reality, Sean, to do so.
Yeah. Anything in particular?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, reality TV. What are you watching?
Done.
Okay.
We're not gonna start.
We're not. Yeah. It's okay to keep it private.
No, but I'm, you know, no, walks actually is good. Walks, cooking, yeah,
Those kind of things.
and I think we have beautiful chats as well. It's an amazing company.
Oh yeah.
So we have beautiful chats and tea breaks and breaks in the green room. Like sometimes we run. It's not like, oh, can we sit and run lines? Sometimes we run lines. Sometimes there are chats about life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's about real stuff.
Yeah.
Real, like, people connect with things in the world of the play that you wouldn't even realize. So it's really good to like chat it out and be like, cool.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, how does this working in this theatre production compare to your previous experiences in TV and film?
I think it's got a similar. Well, I've only ever worked in TV and film. I've only ever done one TV show, and the money. That's the big difference. Is the money. And I'll be honest. It does pay.
Yeah.
No, but but I do think for me, I think this company, I knew who was cast as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and Ross, I think before I saw the cast before, knew who was in the cast, and I just thought, yeah, gang, love these guys' work. I want to do it. So I think that was also just really nice to be able to like know what you're stepping into a bit more. And I think with Richard as a director, he was like, let's have a chat before you like sign on to this. Let's talk about what you're thinking about. And I think that's very different. Like, I don't think I've had someone take some time out to be like, I just want you to be sure you want to be here. And I think that's really important to like foster an environment where people are really saying yes, not just because like, you know, the industry is like pretty bleak at the moment and opportunities are few and far between for people, if to be honest, to know that you're in a company where like everyone has really been picked and asked for and really want to be there, I think is a really lovely feeling to know that it has been curated, which is really nice.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm looking at 10:02 or rehearsal. But between you know, as I'm sure we all know, I'm gonna say the obvious that there are different mediums already, cinema and film and theater. What I like about this, which is the most challenging, is so you have to be really talking about the ownership. Sometimes when you do film, well, TV, there is not much ownership and much time to work on your lines, and you will stop, they turn the camera to your angle or to, you know, but here you're in a 360 mode. You have to be like alive in every way, and you know, like if you do a film, your face can be on a big screen, so every single detail is seen. In theater, you need to really have you have to be a great DJ of your body and movement and emotion, to go big enough to be touched by the audience, and a little bit less so people could lean forward to watch you and to convey the story. So it's you need to know how much you fill yourself with air, not like the ego, but actually your space. It's exciting, you know, theater. I would not swap it for the world.
That's amazing.
And pay, you're right. Like that's different.
We'd love the like, you know, TV pay and theatre pay, but that would be
maybe soon. So two final questions, because I know time is pressing. So my final question from this is, if you could pick a Shakespeare character from any of Shakespeare's play to put in Macbeth, who would you bring? Who would you put in from any of Shakespeare's other production plays, and who would you put into Macbeth, either to lighten it up or to make it a bit more sinister? I don't know. Who would you pick?
Wow.
I don't know. The first thing that came into my head was Bottom, but I don't know why I would pick Bottom in Midsummer Night's as like just to be like, but in the sort of like fairy bower version of Bottom, but taken into the soldiers thing in that point, being like, you're a soldier now, and he doesn't say anything. You just see this one soldier randomly then just sort of like, oh, I don't know what should be here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm between actually. I don't know why. The gravedigger from Hamlet came to me. Who would they bury? You know, is it Lady Macbeth? They'd bury and have it comes. You know, I don't know. And the other part came to mind. I don't know why I thought of King Lear. I thought could be the dad of I don't know, of someone transferring this weird thing about him and the division to, I don't know, see the father of Macbeth, or
maybe he's from Norway.
Yeah. Maybe Lady Macbeth is one of the daughters. I don't know.
Okay, I like it. So finally, just before we go then, so you're just as you're coming into the production opens on the 28th of February to
Yeah.
the 29th of March, and it's at the Lyric Theatre. So tell us quickly, as always, why people should come and see your production of Macbeth.
First answer, we're in it. No.
That's allowed.
For the fans of us, no. I think it's gonna be really fresh, and I also think it's a real opportunity to support theatre and artists that I think should be like theatre artists should be really celebrated, and like not, I think there's a lot of like celebrity in theatre at the moment, and I think this is like not a celebrity like headed production, and I think that's really rare right now, and I think to support artists in that way, but also because I think it's just very fresh and new, and I think we're really trying to like bring ourselves and bring the sort of variety of people and experience we have in the room. It's just sort of like unlike anything that's sort of been being made or being seen. And I think that's really exciting to have these different bodies with different experiences saying these lines and giving this story.
I think for me personally, coming from Syria and the experience of theatre in the Middle East, studying there and then doing different projects in Europe, I think this show goes to the middle ground between all these like styles and the expected, I don't want to say expected, nothing is expected in theatre here in Britain. So I think even while I'm rehearsing or I'm sitting on the side and I'm watching the way things sometimes performed or the choices are made, I'm saying, oh, that's interesting, that's new, or that's, so I think it's what you were saying, Bianca, there is something fresh about that. There are different schools in a way for me introduced in this production, and Macbeth is a great story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm making it greater.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Bianca and Ammar, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Everybody, make sure you go and get tickets. They're on sale now at the Lyric Hammersmith, which is for the production of Macbeth, and it opens on the 28th of February. So make sure you get yourselves down. And once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
No worries. This has been the Screen One interview, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you. Come to the show.
Tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.